Are there some situations where determinism falls flat? What are the things that determinism can't explain? These are the questions we're going to explore in this video, where we're going to find out what is the difference between mind and matter, and why, in the last instance, everything has the nature of mind. Hi fellow sign lovers, I'm back and I'm determined to finish this video series and to put out more videos as well. But back to this video. I have divided this video into 3 parts according to different phenomena that determinism can't really adequately explain. The first part is about growth, or directionality to be more precise. The second part is about variety and novelty, and the third part is about consciousness and mind. But most importantly, remember to subscribe to the channel, share these videos with your friends, and enjoy the video. As I argued alongside with Peirce in the first video, determinism is incapable of providing any explanation to the phenomenon of growth, a phenomenon that is manifested in the lives of plants, animals, institutions, ideas, basically cosmos at large. Now it's time to deepen that critique. Now the problem more precisely is the concept of directionality. Now the very notion of growth implies a process that proceeds in a definite direction. We grow older, not younger. The seed grows into a plant and not vice versa. This is at odds with determinism, which, as we saw in the first part of this series, sees every process as, at least theoretically, reversible. Of course, it's possible that determinism would say that there are irreversible processes in our cosmos, but there is no explanation for this perceived unidirectionality of these processes. There is nothing inherent in the process that would explain this perceived unidirectionality. A determinist has a hard time arguing why processes should run only to one specific direction. Determinists can only say that this is because the universe was so constructed. It is a matter of brute fact that things are never reversed. But chance, on the other hand, could explain the directionality of processes. Let's take an example. According to the laws of thermodynamics, heat flows only from hot to cold. Let's picture the following scenario. There are 2 chambers with a door in the middle. The left chamber is hot, meaning that the molecules are moving fast. The right chamber is cold, meaning that the molecules are moving slow. The door keeps these 2 chambers separate. Let us now imagine a demon in the middle who lets only the slow molecules pass from hot chamber to the cold one, and only the fast molecules from the cold chamber to the hot one. In this manner, it is possible that heat gets transferred from cold to hot. The cold chamber gets colder, and the hot chamber gets hotter. So flow from cold to hot is theoretically possible, but it is just very, very unlikely. But by probability and chance, the heat will distribute evenly in the room. The odds are overwhelmingly in favor of the evenly mixing of these 2 chambers. Therefore, probability and objective chance explain the directionality of the process of heat distribution. Notice further how we explain this phenomenon through probability and chance, and not through the initial conditions of the particles and forces affecting those particles.
We can make enormously successful predictions about how the air in this room will behave, just on the basis of its fluid properties. And that's kind of miraculous because the total information about the air would be what Laplace's demon would have, right? The position and the velocity of every single molecule, as well as its rotation and so forth. And miraculously, we don't need that information.
Determinist holds that the laws of nature produce like effects under like circumstances, all other things being equal. So how it is possible that when we toss a coin, it sometimes lands heads and sometimes tails? The variety of outcomes cannot be due to the laws of nature, because according to the determinist, the laws of nature are exactly the same under both tosses. And this means that mechanical or deterministic laws cannot account for the variety of outcomes. So the only way is to claim that all other things were not equal. The heads or tails resulted because there were different forces affecting the coin when it was thrown. But then diversity lays in the different circumstances of the tosses and is by no means the product of the laws of nature. And therefore, determinist holds that the laws of nature cannot create any variety. Furthermore, the determinist believes that these different circumstances, that is, these different forces that affected the coin, were produced by other states and causes in the universe. In other words, the variety of outcomes was already determined by the past. The way I threw the coins was predetermined. There was nothing novel, there was no element of chance involved. And this means that, according to determinists, the amount of variety in our universe is constant. So determinism doesn't explain the variety or complexity of the universe. According to determinism, the complexity and variety of the universe was determined once and for all in the beginning of the universe by this rather mystical variety constant. And that means that the intrinsic complexity of the universe is constant at all given times. And since determinism does not give us any explanation of why these variables are what they are, it leaves variety and complexity completely unaccounted for. Determinist only says, well, the values are what they are, and that's that. There is no explanation for them. On the other hand, Peirce sees that the complexity of the universe is constantly growing. Consider the life of an individual animal or plant, or of a mind. Glance at the history of states, of institutions, of language, of ideas. Everywhere the main fact is growth and increasing complexity. From these broad and ubiquitous facts we may infer that there is probably in nature some agency by which the complexity and diversity of things can be increased, and that consequently the rule of mechanical necessity meets in some way with interference.
The point is there's newness emerging in this evolutionary stream. And that's how we went from just simple quarks to the sonnets of Shakespeare. The undeniable fact of that is that novelty is just all over the bloody place. And if you have strict determinism, you can't get that. It's not going to happen.
For this to be possible, all the laws of the universe must be subject to chance. This implies that events are not rigidly determined by prior causes. On this view, diversification is not so much explained by chance as it is the manifestation of chance. There are constantly infinitesimal, that is very, very small, departures from the order that determinism predicts. Small departures are probable and big departures are improbable. So this is exactly like in the normal distribution. The tails of the normal distribution, that is, major departures from the average, are unlikely, whereas the values in the middle
that is, minor departures from the average, are very likely. For example, here is a chart of average weights of newborn babies, and as we can see, babies weighing under 2 kilograms or over 5 kilograms are rare occurrences, whereas babies weighing near 3.5 kilograms are common. So in this particular example, the probability law and chance create constant variation in the birth weights. As Peirce says, by thus admitting pure spontaneity or life as a character of the universe, acting always and everywhere, though restrained within narrow bounds by law, producing infinitesimal departures from law continually, and great ones with infinite infrequency, I account for all the variety and diversity of the universe in the only sense in which the really sui generis and new can be said to be accounted for.
There is a creative emergence of novelty. And you're having thoughts right now that in part are emergent. They're a bit of newness that's never, ever, ever happened before.
So variety can emerge only from spontaneity. But for some reason the determinists deny the spontaneity of our living universe and shove it back into the beginning and view our universe dead ever since. And speaking about dead, let's talk about the role of mind and consciousness in the deterministic universe. For the determinist, as everything else, also mental phenomena are part of the deterministic order of things and therefore explainable by the model of classical mechanics. Our brain is just a complex system of particles and forces. As we have seen, determinists cannot accept the view that the future is open to many different possibilities because the future is already predetermined. This excludes the goal-directedness of consciousness and renders consciousness completely powerless to affect the order of things. The result is that determinism denies the role of intelligence as a motive force in our universe.
Everything you're consciously aware of in every moment is the result of causes of which you are not aware and over which you exert no conscious control. And what I'm going to do next remains a mystery that is fully determined by a prior state of the universe.
If our mental acts and cognitions are completely determined by the laws of nature, that precludes any possibility of rational volition. Since all the states of the universe are fixed at once, mechanical causation leaves consciousness nothing to do in this world of matter. Consciousness is not just an illusion, it is an useless illusion. According to determinists, unpredictable events like the toss of a coin are unpredictable only because we don't have the complete knowledge. We say that more than one outcome is possible, but that is just semantics, a way of talking because we don't have the complete information. Objective chance, on the other hand, makes room for possibilities. What is seen as possible does not depend on the lack of knowledge, because possibility is seen as an objective fact. There is then room for active agency, which can redirect the future course of events by determining which possibilities become actualized. Objective chance makes room for consciousness to have an active role in our world. What about ideas and beliefs? As we have already many times noted, the determinist sees the whole of cognition determined by mechanical forces. This means that the whole intellectual history of humankind is reducible to reversible and dynamical forces. Each new belief is seen as a causal product of previous beliefs, and all the relations between various beliefs are causal and mechanical.
Now, I would argue that that process of change, I mean, if I say something that changes your view on anything, that's not evidence of free will. That is evidence of just yet more causality. I mean, you don't pick the changes that come your way. If I get you to see something that you didn't see a moment before, you're not responsible for the fact that you didn't see it a moment before, and you're not responsible for the fact that you now see it. It's just like the dominoes just kept falling, right?
Right.
So what happens to reason? Reasoning must be seen as deductive reasoning. Reasoning is something forceful, something that we cannot resist. One idea necessarily leads to another idea by the blind force of causation.
Reason does not require free will. Reason requires
convincing me
having a mind that can follow an argument and can care about whether or not you're following it.
But me responding
accurately.
to your argument is not a matter of choice at that point. So what's
It's never,
the point?
but the thing is, reason is never a matter of choice. If I convince
Then why
you,
is reason superior to amygdala response, passionate amygdala response?
well, because one, it's scalable. One, it's if I give you sufficiently good reasons for anything,
Right.
you will helplessly believe what I believe. It won't be a matter of choice. You never choose what
But
you
why
believe.
are you giving me those reasons?
If I prove to you that
Again, you're using a lot of active verbs for a guy who has no capacity to choose himself.
well, no, but I'm doing no.
You're using my language, and then you're building a house using the bricks that I'm giving you.
No. To stick with reason, the one brick. Reason is a mode of influence whereby if you see the syllogism actually runs through, right? Or to speak of reason even more broadly, if I give you a set of facts that persuade you of something that before this moment you were unaware of or thought was untrue, you will helplessly take that on board if you're reasoning, right? So if I show you that 2 plus 2 makes 4, and you can't see it any other way, even though you wish it made 5, you will helplessly believe that 2 plus 2 makes 4. You don't choose it. You never choose it.
But as deductive reasoning is incapable of producing new knowledge, the rational inquiry is made impossible. Consider the following example.
Suppose we have a bag containing beans, all of which are brown, which is our rule. If I take a handful of beans from the bag, which is our case, I can be sure that all of the beans in my hand will be brown, which is our result. Now, notice how we don't get any new information. The result follows necessarily from the premises. The result was already contained but hidden in the premises. But the upside is that our knowledge is infallible if our premises are true. Now notice how this is very similar to the deterministic worldview in the sense that the result follows necessarily from the premises and the result was already contained in the premises. Now contrast deductive reasoning to inductive reasoning. Inductive reasoning produces new knowledge which was not implicit in the premises. Let's continue the example. Suppose we don't know the contents of the bag, which is our case, and then we take a handful of beans from the bag and all of the beans are brown, which is our result. We can thus infer that the beans in the bag are brown, which is our inferred rule. Notice how this knowledge is not infallible. There may be other beans in the bag, but by chance we took only the brown beans from the bag. Nevertheless, we can strengthen our inferred rule by conducting more experiments, by taking another sample of beans from the bag. But regardless of the number of experiments, we can never infer infallible knowledge. There could be one white bean that we never catch. Or to use another example, there could be one black swan that we never see. But there is also a third kind of reasoning called abductive reasoning, which has the power to generate the most amount of new knowledge, but with the price of being also the most fallible form of reasoning. Suppose I know that all the beans in the bag are brown, which is our known rule, and I find brown beans lying on the ground, which is the result. I may then form a hypothesis that these beans are from this particular bag, which would be our case. Now to wrap things up, these two latter forms of reasoning, inductive and abductive, generate new, novel knowledge which was not present before and which was not contained in the premises. Therefore, these forms of reasoning are not explainable mechanistically, because these new beliefs are not necessary effects of earlier beliefs.
What about thoughts and communication? Determinist sees that our thoughts are completely determined by the immutable laws. People are blind input-output machines whose errors are inevitable product of nature.
You're a robot that is open, continuously open to influence. All the causes and conditions that have created this odious behavior you're now disposed to react to in the world, right? Like you can, everything on some level is more of a force of nature than it is something that you need to take personally.
This precludes any possibility of genuine deliberation, which is the characteristic of critical thought and scientific process. Peirce sees that the pursuit of truth rests on the notion that the inquirers are capable of reforming their beliefs and methods of inquiry. The science is not predetermined, but depends on the outcomes of this critical and open-ended inquiry. There is no guarantee that this inquiry will triumph, but it is neither condemned to follow blindly the cognitive laws of the past. What about then the difference between mind and matter? Are we now in danger of asserting some kind of a supernatural or immaterial soul that's inside of us? If everything is not mechanical and material, must consciousness then be something supernatural? Something that is above the laws of physics?
Show me where it actually happens, because we know we have bodies. Whether or not the mind is separate from them, we know we have bodies. The modern version of this is we know we have particles in us. We know we have atoms, and we know what they do. We know how they behave. We know an equation that says if you put them in a certain situation, here's what's going to happen next. There's no room in that equation for consciousness.
Peirce does not see mind and matter as dualistic concepts. They are not against each other. The universe is not divided into the realms of mind and matter. Instead, they are both subsumed under the concept of habit. All phenomena, mental and physical, are expressed by habits or by laws of the form.
If Act A were performed under the conditions C, result R would occur in P% of the cases. What distinguishes mental phenomena from physical is their degree of regularity in behavior, that is, the fixity of habits that determine them. It is not difference in substance. While, for example, planets and other bodies follow stable and exact laws, meaning that the percentage is very high, human mind is far less predictable, and its habits are far more plastic, meaning that the percentage is very low. Both systems are nevertheless subsumed in the same evolutionary process of habit-taking. Matter is effete mind. Matter is crystallized habit. Determinists would say that the only possible values for P are either 100% or 0%. Either something follows necessarily or not. On the other hand, Peirce would allow for every number between 0 and 100.
Notice how Peirce's view does not rule out the possibility that our universe could be deterministic. Peirce's view is more open to scientific inquiry than the deterministic one. The determinist immediately denies the possibility of objective chance and randomness in our universe, whereas Peirce leaves these questions open for further inquiry. Peirce's view is simply better and more open working hypothesis for inquiring to the nature of our reality. But questions still remain open. If there is objective chance in the universe, what prevents a complete chaos from emerging? What orders our universe? In the next video, we're going to explore the concept of final cause, which governs all processes and causation. Stay tuned.
As scientists, we're very open. Like, I could totally be wrong about everything I told you. If new evidence or argumentation comes that shows us that there's a better way of understanding the world in which that's the case, then we will change our mind.